Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Crime is up and socialists are scrambling. That's the topic of a Jason Riley piece in the Wall Street Journal. And, of course, we here in Chicago know that all too well, seeing the latest iteration of that being the mutual combatants, Lori Lightfoot and Kim Foxx, trying to ascribe blame for the violence on the streets of Chicago to one another and using a high-profile case. 5 people shot in a shootout in the Austin neighborhood on Friday, 1 killed and no charges. Lori Lightfoot first blamed Kim Foxx earlier this week. Why have there not been charges? I don't see why there are not charges. And then Kim Foxx responded yesterday as to why her office declined to charge at this juncture.
This is not a time for scapegoats. This is not a time for political rhetoric. There's a shootout in Austin. Our number one concern should be about getting those people prosecuted, not a headline diverting attention away from the fact that we have not had a comprehensive plan for violence in the city of Chicago.
Zing.
The Cook County State's Attorney's Office is here, ready to hold those who cause harm to our communities accountable for their actions.
Nobody believes that because it's not true. And this is, again, Dem socialist-controlled big cities across the country. Murders up 30% last year, year over year. Biggest one-year increase since 1960. Aggravated assaults up 12%. Violent crime overall up by 6%. 2020 study by Harvard economist Roland Fryer finds that the impact of viral incidents, Michael Brown, George Floyd, Laquan McDonald, Freddie Gray, police become less proactive, their contacts with civilians decline, the violent crime spikes. And, of course, after the just unrepentant vilification of police and the move to defund them, which materially happened in some big cities, you have the crime wave continuing this year. In fact,
right.
Even more pronounced this year over last year, after you saw the greatest one-year increase since 1960.
It's all because of the defund the police movement too.
Well, it's all
of it.
It's all stakeholders, right? So the civilian political leadership of big city mayors like Triple Threat, the defund the police being done by mayors in consultation with city councils, the vilification being done by sort of all of the above, including general assemblies and state legislatures that. Like Illinois, that pass legislation that is antagonistic towards police, bail reform laws that put people who shouldn't be on the street back on the street, as we've seen here. Murders up 62% in Atlanta, 2019 to 2020. And right now in Atlanta, like you saw happen in New York, you've got a man of the left, but this guy, Bruce Harrell, who's running for mayor of mayor of Seattle. This is in Seattle, same thing, but same thing is happening in Atlanta. So in Atlanta, former mayor Kasim Reed holds a slight lead in the race. He's talking about the unacceptable crime rate. Television ad saying public safety is job number one. In Seattle, where Jenny Durkin, Mayor Summer of Love, couldn't run for re-election because she couldn't win, Bruce Harrell is the candidate who holds a significant lead over Bernie Sanders-backed candidate. He has not embrace the defund the police zeitgeist of Seattle. Very interesting to see what's happening, and we'll see if it's visited upon Chicago.
And it's so weird. I mean, in Atlanta, it's so bad. This one dude was carjacking people with a bow and arrow. Very bizarre. And he was actually eventually shot by police. But one thing that Kim Foxx said yesterday at her press conference, since she took office December 2016, and I don't know why she brought this up, but she said there's been 13,374 shootings and 2,447 arrests. If you do that, and she was touting that is an accomplishment. 13,000 shootings, 2,000 arrests.
Sounds like she's blaming police and she's blaming the mayor for not having a comprehensive plan to address violence. You know, this is all blame shifting from all these people that are jockeying for position within the same power structure. That's all this is, mutual combatants. And also remember, and this is never addressed by Kim Foxx because she rarely takes questions. And when she does, if you have a Chicago press corps that doesn't know how to ask any serious questions because they're in cahoots with them too, the decriminalization of crime, like no prosecutions for stealing anything less than $1,000. And think about that too, just against the federal backdrop. Same people, same ideologues, same philosophy. So on the one hand, the IRS in the reconciliation bill pending, we're going to add 80,000 more IRS agents so they can review any person's bank accounts who have that where there's more than $600 or more than $600 in transactions. So law-abiding people who clear the $600 threshold in terms of money in or money transacted, they get federal scrutiny. People stealing $600 worth of stuff get no scrutiny.
Get absolutely nothing.
This is the sort of rule of men, not rule of law, that signals the end of a free society. It's a great juxtaposition, if I do say so myself. For more on this topic, as well as the Durham investigation, speaking of the rule of men versus the rule of law, pleased to be joined again by George Parry. He's a former federal and state prosecutor, regular contributor to the American Spectre, and he blogs at knowledgeisgood.net. George, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Nice to be with you.
Well, you know this all too well, what we're talking about with Fox and these prosecutors in Philadelphia with Larry Krasner. Same thing there.
Yeah, we have exactly the same thing going on in Philadelphia. Only there's not even an effort here to shift blame. The mayor is just, perfectly happy with the situation. Krasner receives no criticism whatsoever from the Philadelphia Inquirer or anyone in the Philadelphia media. And everyone's acting as if things are just perfectly normal, when in fact the city is coming apart at the seams.
And for police, we had this case where a 7-year-old girl was murdered.
Serenity Broughton.
This was back just about 2 months ago. And the Cook County State's Attorney's Office declined to charge. A commander went around the Cook County State's Attorney's Office and tried to get a judge to essentially provide more opportunity so that a case could be brought. And then that was when the Cook County State's Attorney's Office got wind of it. They went to the police chief, who then sent somebody else to the another judge, and had the order of the previous judge thrown out. But I mean, for police officers, this is always like a question when you have a terrible executive. Is there a way to work around the principle? In other words, is there a way for police? What are the ways police officers have to deal with putting away the violent felons they do catch if a prosecutor isn't interested?
Not really. The left has, in specifically, I would say George Soros, who's funding so many of these prosecutors, they've identified the choke point in the system, which is the prosecutor's office. And once you take that position over, then the charging decisions that get made, which are the province of the prosecutor and not the police, the charging decisions are what they are. And I mean, in Philadelphia, we've just had absolutely stunning results of Krasner and his office, because he's recruited some real beauties to work in his office, of just declining to prosecute. And, keep in mind that here in Pennsylvania, we have a Victims' Rights Act that says that the prosecution must take into account the impact that its decisions will have on the victims of crime. And Krasner's office just routinely ignores the victims, does not consult with them, and they decline to prosecute in these really terrible cases. It's quite similar to what's going on in Chicago.
Well, do you guys have...
And the murder rate in Philadelphia has gone up, although I suspect that what's happening with the Philadelphia administration is they're trying to cook the books in terms of crime stats, but it's pretty clear what's happening here, and it's quite similar to what you have out there.
Do you folks in Philadelphia have mutual combat? Is that legal? Because we had a 67-year-old special ed teacher, Denise, who was driving home from a Sox game, and two gangbangers, they're called rolling shootouts, are shooting at each other while they're driving at high rates of speed back and forth, and a bullet accidentally struck her. And Kim Foxx didn't charge either of those because they were mutual combatants.
No, that's a new one on me.
Well, get ready because it's probably coming your way.
I was in this racket. I was in this racket for 50 years, and okay. So gangbangers want to have a fight, and some innocent civilian gets caught in the crossfire, and we're just supposed to say what? Okay, work on your aim, fellas. No. That's just crazy. I mean, that's a level of craziness I have not seen before.
Well, that's the level of crazy
that we live
feature
with
in Chicago. And just, again, thinking about what police can do, just to talk through this. So the emergency override in that case I mentioned before that the commander got, even if they wouldn't have had the Cook County State Attorney's Office wouldn't have gone to the police chief and gone to another judge to rescind the order allowing the judge to charge where the prosecutor wouldn't, then the first hearing, the charges could be withdrawn by the Cook County State's attorney. But at least in that situation, they have to take the affirmative step of doing it in open court, and maybe that would be some pressure. The other suggestion is special prosecutors, like we have in the Jussie Smollett case. But there again, you have to have now judges. What's a judge supposed to do? Appoint a special prosecutor in all of the cases that Kim Foxx, for example, chooses not to charge. I mean, it's just, as you're saying, they found the choke point. There's just not a real effective way, particularly if these prosecutors continue to get reelected like Krasner and Fox have. There's not a real way around them if you want to have the rule of law.
Yeah, and keep in mind, at one point here in Philadelphia, we had a U.S. attorney who was appointed by Trump, who did the best he could with limited jurisdiction that he had to deal with a violent crime problem in Philadelphia. Well, that guy's gone now, and we've got the Biden replacement, and so that whole federal effort has come to an end. But the fact of the matter is that even with a U.S. attorney trying to take action, a U.S. attorney doesn't have the broad jurisdiction to deal with street crime and everyday violent crime that the local prosecutor does. So if the prosecutor at the local level isn't going to do the job, then you just have a mess on your hands. And that's what we've got here, and it sounds like that's what you got out there in Chicago.
A topic you've been writing about over the last few weeks after that Clinton lawyer Sussman was charged by John Durham is the reemergence of John Durham. Just when you thought it would never happen, something is starting to happen, and that a 27-page indictment he released indicated that there is more to come, and the latest round of subpoenas also seems to indicate there is more to come, at least with some of the operatives for the Democrats, even if you don't get to the principals that were enlisting the operatives.
Yeah, the indictment that was returned runs for 27 pages, and it avers only one count of false statements to the FBI by this lawyer, Michael Sussman. But when you look at and read the entire 27 pages, the indictment lays out a broad conspiracy dealing with the Trump-Russia collusion hoax. So it's just chock full of factual averments, which indicate that Sussman, the charge against Sussman, is not where this thing is going to end. In fact, it indicates to me, at least, and I did this work for decades, that the prosecutor here, Mr. Durham, and his colleagues have been working very hard and have come up with some very persuasive proof in terms of this overall conspiracy to cook up the Trump-Russia collusion hoax. And I might add that the indictment cites billing records from Mr. Sussman's law firm, which is Perkins Coie, which, based on this indictment, appears to be smack dab in the middle of concocting the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, as well as emails from Mr. Sussman and others in the academic world and in the tech world, cybersecurity world. So all of that indicates that they have dug up some strong evidence, and it shows that they've put a lot of effort into gaining that evidence, because that stuff just isn't laying around. You got to go dig it out, and you've got to fight to get that sort of stuff. So it's a devastating document, even though it only alleges one count. It's clear to me that there's much more to come, and that they have plenty of time to do it in, because with the conspiracy, it's already alleged that there was at least one overt act for furtherance of the conspiracy, which took place in February of 2017. So at least the statute of limitations based on that one overt act won't run until February 2022. And I suspect there are going to be further overt acts, which are even later in time. So Mr. Durham has plenty of time to bring charges. And he's certainly produced a lot of very telling information, and now with this latest round of subpoenas, it's clear that he's still going after it.
And the progression, the possibility here would be Perkins Coie, Fusion GPS, the op research firm, Glenn Simpson and that crew. You've got Sussman and his crew at Perkins Coie. You implicate them, and then you try to leverage them to go up the food chain to those that had enlisted them. And then you start to get into some serious territory if you can get above those corporate entities.
Yeah, and I think, just reading between the lines, I think that Durham has gained the cooperation of certain members of the FBI who I believe were in on the scam from the beginning, and that I think and again, I don't want to just get too specific about this. This is just my prosecutor's instincts. I think he's rolled a couple of key members of the FBI who are cooperating with him. So this could go not only up the corporate ladder, it could get right into government as well. And I can tell you this, based on what's in that indictment, it would appear that the current National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, is going to have some real problems going down the road, because according to this indictment, Sullivan was part and parcel of cooking up at least one part of and spreading one part of the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, knowing that it was false.
Well, there's some hopeful notes for accountability. Yeah.
So, people wrote Durham off. They were wondering what he was doing. Well, now we know he's been doing a lot, and I anticipate we're going to be hearing a lot more from him.
George Parry, former federal and state prosecutor, regular contributor to the American Spectator, and he blogs at knowledgeisgood.net. George, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
This view was worth a hike.
Right? And it's a good way to stay on top of my health.
Yes, I'm Cologuard, a prescription colon cancer screening option for people 45 plus at average risk. Have you screened for colon cancer?
Not yet.
Don't wait. It's more treatable when caught in early stages.
Tell me more.
Cologuard is non-invasive and it's used at home. It detects altered DNA in your stool to find 92% of colon cancers.
92%?
Yep, even those in early stages.
This was seen in a clinical study with patients 50 and older. Any positive result should be followed by a diagnostic colonoscopy. False positive and negative results may occur. Cologuard is not a replacement for colonoscopy in high-risk patients. Do not use if you have had adenomas, have inflammatory bowel disease and certain hereditary syndromes, or a personal or family history of colon cancer.
Most insured patients pay $0. Ask your provider or an online prescriber if Cologuard is right for you, or visit Cologuard.com.
I'm in.
All right. As you know, our good friend Mike Lindell has a passion to help everyone get the best sleep of their life. And he didn't stop by simply creating the best pillow. Mike created the new Giza Dream bed sheets. They look and feel great, which means an even better night's sleep for you. And he found the world's best cotton called Giza. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. The Giza sheets come with a 60-day money-back guarantee, a 10-year warranty, and come in a variety of sizes and colors. And guess what? The first night you sleep on them, you'll never want to go back to anything else. They're that good. So check out this special offer on Giza Dream Sheets just for you. Receive 2 for the price of